Hello everyone, in this video today we're going to be having a look at the top 5 reasons vampire crabs die. So I get a lot of questions in email and on Facebook and all the other places of people asking why my crabs died. So in this video we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 reasons, and we're going to start with failed molts. So in order for vampire crabs to grow, they need to molt, which basically means they just shed their skin, grow a little bit bigger, and then carry on with their lives. Apart from doing this to get bigger and grow, they also do this if they need to recover from an injury. So if they get into a fight, lose some legs, lose a claw, whatever, molting allows them to grow back those limbs. A failed molt happens when they can't do this successfully. So this happens for a ton of different reasons. Sometimes it's just because of an accident. So if they have a claw break in a bad way, they won't be able to get out of their shell properly, and eventually they will die from this. I've got a video of this happening to one of my crabs recently. I'll leave that in the description if you want to check that out. But if it isn't from an issue like this, it's usually dietary. So you need to make sure you've got a really good diet for your crabs, high in calcium, high in protein, high in all the other minerals, and this will basically eliminate any sort of a failed molt, with the exception of a injury that won't allow the crab to exit its old shell properly. Moving on to number 4, and another really common one, old age. So because most of these crabs are wild caught, no one actually knows what sort of age they are when they enter the hobby. You might have a crab that's already 2 years old, and when these crabs only live for 2 to 2.5 years, you're not going to get much of a lifespan out of it. So old age is one of the highest causes for this, because wild caught crabs, their age can vary from being quite young to quite old. So you never really know what you're going to get. If it is possible, try to get captive bred crabs. They're way better for a ton of different reasons. They're better for the environment. They're better for you because the crabs are going to be a lot younger. They're also a lot more social. They don't spend as much time hiding. They're used to people, so your crabs are a lot more visible. So that one's pretty straightforward. Nothing you can do about old age, but getting captive bred crabs does help because you're more likely to get a younger crab and a healthier crab that hasn't suffered a lot of trauma. Number 3, bad diet. This is one of the most common ways for them to die and one of the easiest ways to prevent them from dying. So a really good varied diet will basically eliminate this issue. So get as much random food in there as possible. Any sort of the dry food works well. So fish foods, crab food, shrimp foods, cory foods, any kind of that stuff, as well as fresh vegetables. Just steam or boil them first. The crabs are more likely to eat them. Again, I've got a full video on full diets for these crabs. I'll leave that linked in the description as well. It's really good to check it out. There's a ton of different options, so there's no real excuse to have a bad diet for your crabs. So you can basically eliminate this issue entirely. Next one is improper environment. So this is another basic one. If you're going to plan on keeping these crabs, at least make the environment good. It's easy to do. You should be doing this before you even think about getting crabs. I've got a lot of videos on this as well, so I'll leave those linked in the description as well, but basically just check out any video on the channel. I have a full video on everything you need to know about these crabs, which covers all the basics as well. So to go over the basics for an improper environment, it's not having enough land space. These crabs are primarily terrestrial creatures. They spend 99% of their time on the land unless they're doing a bit of foraging in the water or molting. They do their molting in the water. So you need at least 80% land and a 20% water allocation of space. Anything less is not going to work well. You're basically ignoring their most essential needs. Apart from the land and water allocation, you need to make sure they have the right humidity level, right temperature level, everything else that fits inside keeping the perfect environment. Really straightforward. If you're going to keep these crabs, this should be the first bit of research you're doing anyway. So again, no excuses for having a poor environment. And the final one on this list, and the most common reason for them dying, is shipping trauma. So these crabs generally get shipped out of Southeast Asia. They spend quite a lot of time getting shipped from Asia to other places, so America, Europe, wherever. Then they go into a wholesaler or a local fish store where they sit for a little while, and then from there they get shipped onto the customer finally, which is generally you. So between these two different batches of shipping, the crabs get shaken around, smashed around, the temperature goes up and down, and by the time you get them, they're bruised, battered, and basically struggling to survive. So even with the best shipping methods, when they're packed perfectly well, you're still going to have a chance of them dying, especially when you're shipping during winter and the peak of summer. So between these times, make sure the seller is going to include a heat pack or an ice pack if the temperatures are going to be too far outside of the norms. This isn't a guarantee that it's going to ensure survival, but it will improve the odds. So because of this, I highly recommend getting your crabs locally. I know it's not always possible, but if you can, maybe go for a little bit further of a drive. You'll probably save money on shipping anyway and pick up some crabs locally. The final thing I'll mention on this section is if you are on Facebook, Reddit, or any of the other places and you get approached from sellers from Asia offering to sell you crabs, please don't buy them because they're going to arrive to you dead. Almost 100% guarantee of that. And if they do arrive alive, they're not going to live for long. And finally, you also have the high possibility of getting into quite a lot of trouble with customs. So importing crabs and other animals is generally a customs issue. So you don't want to have to deal with that as well. Anyway, that is the top 5 reasons vampire crabs die. I hope you found it useful, and I'll leave a link in the description to my full vampire crab playlist, which covers basically everything you will ever need to know about these crabs. It will help you keep them alive and very happy. Anyway, that wraps up this one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in another video. Cheers, everyone.